first focus session is a very interesting topic, India as the preferred exhibition and conference destination. This would be moderated by Mr. Yogesh Mudrash, Executive Committee Member, IAIA and Managing Director, Informa Markets.
Okay, hi, good afternoon everyone. A warm welcome again to everyone, and we have an interesting panel coming up. We have a focus session on India as a preferred exhibition and conference destination. Please join me in welcoming my co-panelists. I'm the moderator here today for this panel. My co-panelists here are Vinny Mehta, DG ACMA. Can we have Vinny on the stage, please? Please welcome them with a round of applause, please. We also have V. Anbu, Director General IMTMA, joining us for this panel. Rakesh Kumar ji, Director General EPCH. Vivek Jangiani, International President of TITMA and also Head of the Toy Committee of FICCI. We have two speakers who are joining us virtually. Charu Mathur, I think she's already online. Can we see her here? She is Director General of IMA. Can we see her online? Charu? Hi Charu. Good morning. Just about good morning. A few minutes to go. So
yeah, absolutely. Good to be here.
Welcome to you, and wish you would have met in person, but good you have been able to join because of your meeting. Still, you have made time to join us for this panel. Also, we will be joined shortly by Rupinder Brar, who is the ADG, Ministry of Tourism. She'll be joining us virtually soon. Has she joined? And we also have one more panelist joining us. She is on her way, but just for the time's sake, we are starting. We'll introduce her. She is Anandi Iyer, Director of Fraunhofer India Office, Ambassador JNSAP, Chairperson also of Women in Science and Entrepreneurship at FICCI. So as I said, this is a very interesting panel on the topic of India as a preferred exhibition and conference destination. Looking at exhibitions industry per se, if you really see, this industry has been consistently outperforming the national GDP, which means that we grow faster than our nation's growth. About 23,800 crores of by the way of economic impact that our industry has generated. And also the sector generates 3 lakh crore worth of business all across the industry. There are 25 purpose-built venues in our country, and with a total indoor capacity of 437,000 square meters. In spite of that, there have been inherent challenges for our industry, we all know, but there has never been more opportune time for exhibitions and conferences as a sector really to grow further. Some of the pointers which are focusing in our direction are increased government recognition. We have seen that our sector as exhibitions has been recognized very well in this pandemic time by the government, especially the organized gatherings which have been differentiated from the mass gatherings. Attractive policy recommendations which are coming in our favor. A young population which is imbued in the culture of startups and entrepreneurship through missions like Make in India. A high increase in performance of ease of doing business. We all know India is becoming easier to do business for the international guys. We have jumped 30 positions and come in top 100 now in terms of ranking for ease of doing business. Also, what we are seeing is that digitization is increasing in our sector really. So that is one thing which is putting us again in the forefront as we try to evolve as per the needs of the current times. And also, one of the biggest factor now, I think, which probably is not the last, but I think very important, is the augmentation in the infrastructure. We see new venues coming up across this country. Also, some of the existing venues adding on to new halls. I think that really is something which will push our sector further into a limelight at a global level. I think at this point, we should also not forget the commendable level of work done by associations such as IEI, along with players from this industry, to put our industry at the forefront. I think that is very critical, and that puts us always in the limelight wherever we go. Having said that, India's MICE segment, unfortunately, or fortunately, I must say, is still just 1% of the global MICE industry. That means there's huge way for us to go, and the target is to double this by in next 5 years, and that's going to be a key thing for us as industry players to see how we can do that. Of course, there is a huge impact of that on the tourism sector per se once our exhibition sector really comes out. So I think this focus session, the key topic, as I said, is on the top of our minds to make India the preferred destination for exhibition and conferences. So before I begin and start asking pertinent questions to all my co-panelists, I think one thing we all know is that 18 to 20 months have been a watershed moment for our industry. We have been through a lot, and so we have Anandi also coming in. Welcome, Anandi. Welcome on stage. So Anandi, again, her introduction is the director of the Fraunhofer India office and ambassador of JNSAP. She is also chairperson of WISE, the Women in Science and Entrepreneurship at FICCI. So just coming to that topic, as I said, 18 to 24 months have been really of a watershed moment. And what I would like to know from my co-panelists over here is what has been through their minds, how have they evolved through this, and what could be a takeaway for you? Maybe if individually I go across the table, of course, starting with the lady here who's joined us, and Anandi, would you like to say something on how this 18-24 months have panned out for you, and what is the key takeaway for you? Just a couple of minutes on that before we start.
Thank you very much, and sorry for coming in. Actually, I came bang on time. Yeah, you started early, so I think I'm being penalized and asked to speak first for coming in last. Good morning to everybody, and it's such a pleasure to be able to see people and interact face to face. I think there's nothing better than this. So, I mean, answering your question, Mr. Chairman, I think the last 2 years have been something straight out of a sci-fi movie. If I used to travel about 10, 12 days a month, and if someone had told me that for the next 2 years you won't get onto a plane, I would have laughed them off, right? But here we are. I think we've seen the worst, hopefully. But what has been reassuring in these times is, one, the human spirit. It's amazing to see people get together, stand up for each other, and really put out their best. I'm part of an NGO, and I have seen how people's hearts and minds and their pockets have been overflowing during these times. So that's a sign that, the human spirit, whatever be the circumstances, we will come out fine. The second thing is, I'm really pleased to say that innovation during these times, industry has been really focusing on innovation. And we have got a lot more inquiries, a lot more interest from industries to see how can we use this downtime to equip ourselves better. This year we have earned about 30 million euros. It is incredible. Of course, a large number comes from Reliance, which has invested in one of our solar energy technologies in a big way, over 25 million euros. But having said that, I think there are green shoots. There is a sign of optimism despite everything, and that's what we take forward. Thank you.
Great, good to hear that. We also have our co-panelist, Madam Rupinder Brarji. She is ADG Tourism. Welcome to this panel, Ms. Brar.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So since you joined us, we were just beginning and we were talking about how this 18 months have panned out and any key takeaways. So it will be great to hear from you. Anything from your side on this?
Thank you for having me, and it's indeed a pleasure. And I would say, despite the slight scare again of Omicron, but we are at a right point in time to take forward the India story. And looking at how much there is interest in India and the kind of work that is happening around large infrastructure, I think exciting times waiting for us. And even though the last 2 years have been definitely not only unprecedented, but have really created a huge issue for travel, tourism and hospitality. But I think in times to come, we should be able to leverage on these 2 years in which the work on large infra has not stopped. Connectivity has improved significantly, and there are large convention centers that were under construction, including through government funding that have happened. Some of you were with us in Khajuraho when we went for the inauguration of the large convention center just before the second phase of COVID. And out of those were also the outcomes of the need to promote India. So I think one good thing that has happened in the last few months is that now we are using our social media handles to also take to the world the various convention centers that are there available in India. And in fact, the promotional movie that we are now going to start showcasing as and when we go back to our global media plan, this time we've made sure that in the content, even in the 30-seconder, there are going to be enough indicators that India as a country is beautiful. It is still a land of snake charmers in its own way, but it's also a country with very modern airports where you can expect good facilitation. There is the highways that are there, the kind of buildings that are there. It gives confidence to anyone coming to India that we are entering a country which is very modern, and you're not going to be cutting short on any of the amenities that are required for any large meetings or conventions or global events that need to happen. So I think time for us to look forward to bidding for some large meetings to happen in India and start scouting around the world, entering good partnerships and working closely as the government and all of you to make sure that India gets noticed for the right reasons in times to come.
Fantastic. I think good to hear this. I think our next panelist is, of course, Rakeshji. Rakeshji, how do you think this 18 months from your perspective? IEML has done a lot. Your association also done a lot in this field. So.
Thank you, Yogesh. As a matter of fact, I am wearing two hats. One is the IML, the other one is the fair organizer, EPCH. So both the front, definitely it was a challenging task for all of us. But the most important at the IML front was first of all to look the finances. And we started immediately making, in consultation with my CEO Sudeep Sarkar, plan A, plan B and plan C. If it belongs for 6 months, then this is the plan A. If it goes beyond, then the plan B and then the plan C. And likewise, we really realized at that time when we started looking into every aspect of the expenditures and other details, we found that a lot of overspending was already being done, I think. Then we realized, and we curtailed that. We had come to a shape that the one. But at the same time, we had to keep the flock together, both. One, that is the industry. The other, our own human resources. So both the flock has to be kept together. For industry, we started the very first virtual show. And also, we started working on the new IP fronts. Our entire team started working on that time, rather over time, from home, how new IP can also be added in the due course. And you may be aware that National Toy Show, which was inaugurated by Honorable Prime Minister, that was organized by EPCH, along with the Ministry of Textile, and the other partner like FICCI and other partners were there. Around 12 organizations were there. So that was added even during that time. Similarly, on the infrastructure front at the IML, we spent good time in consultation with the authority there, local authority, and they happily agreed that we should expand now the infrastructure at the Expo Center itself. And by the time this panic is over, so we will be there with another added property of 134 rooms hotel within the complex. So that was the another advantage of the time we had taken. But definitely it was a tough time, and most important task was for the sustainability, where a lot of new partners we met, lot of people we met, and lot of thought process and you can say Atma Manthan and self-introspection, churning process was there. It was a very, very good learning experience, and I think we'll be able to survive further with that. Thank you.
I think what is coming out from the speakers is the adaptability, how they've adapted soon to the situation and try to move on with things. Vinny, coming to you, I think you lead this leading association, ACMA, and I think I'm sure there have been quite a few learning for you in this phase.
Yeah, that's true. So first of all, Yogesh, thank you, and thank you, and everybody else for having me. Like everybody else, I think we didn't waste this opportunity. If nothing else, there was a huge learning that happened. And I think when I look back, or it still continues in some sense, is that one, we realize that as people, including everybody in this room, we are very, very resilient. Okay? Our spirit of staying alive is in some sense indomitable. And the best thing that I observed was the camaraderie in the entire value chain, because I represent just a component part of the value chain. But when we had, in some sense, a very lockdown situation, and in some sense the supply chains were breaking down because of multiple issues, and they still continue. But what happened was the government, the industry, when I say industry, it is the vehicle manufacturer, the component manufacturers, and within the component manufacturers, they all came very, very together. I mean, very closely together, and our points of connects were very frequent, okay, almost on a weekly basis, okay. And this helped get us, in some sense, some degree of visibility on how to handle the situation, and also a lot of confidence from the camaraderie that happened, okay. I guess, it's an adage in the sense, there's no big science about it. It's just that you need to communicate more to understand where you stand. And believe you me, people are always so nice that whenever you sort of raise your hand for, say, hey, I need help, there is somebody who would definitely come by and stand up by you and give you some kind of a solution. Times were really very, very tough, and I'm very happy to mention to you, tomorrow I'm going to be announcing the results of the first 6 months, that is from April till October, of what we did for this fiscal, and we've grown more than 70% over the last year. Of course, last year also was very unusual, but even we've grown beyond what we did in the first half of 1920. So in some sense, the industry has come back very, very strongly, and I think, we're still not out of the woods. We all know the supply chain is still somewhat struggling, but I guess, we'll take one step at a time and figure it out. Honestly, those days of looking at, if I may say, we were in just-in-time industry where we were focusing on economies and efficiencies, I guess we now say just as is. We will take the situation at hand and deal with it. But boy, I think they say that in India the crisis never ends, so we are best at crisis management, and whenever there's a crisis, we excel. So I guess that's how it is. Yeah, over to you, Yogesh.
So I think the word that sticks out me from your thing is camaraderie. I think all coming together. I think that's what we as an industry association have seen. Everybody coming together, standing out. Those written of business exhibition and the campaigns. I think everybody coming and sticking together. So wonderful. I think that sticks across everywhere. Sorry, Anbu, before I go to, I think I'll let you go to lady who's waiting here. Charu, you represent IMA and a wonderful, fantastic association, and it'll be great to hear from you how your thoughts about last 18 months have been.
Yeah, thanks, Yogesh. And, hi, everybody. All my old friends are sitting there with you there. As I think you pretty much heard what between Anandi and what Rakesh ji and what Vinny said. The last 2 years of the pandemic have left their stretch marks on industry and economy at both. And especially, industry which depends a lot on B2B. They suffered quite a bit. Our own industry had a degrowth of electrical industry had a degrowth about -14% on an average for the last 2 years. But as Vinny said, there are some, or Anandi said, I think there are some green shoots around the corner, and the industry is hungry for growth. So that's one, as far as the industry is concerned. What it did do is that it, and I think Anandi nailed it when she said innovation. And Vinny said it in a slightly different thing. So two things that we saw. One was innovation and a lot of technology, use of technology to get around the restrictions that were placed by the pandemic. And two was the spirit of partnership. So not only generosity, there was a lot of generosity around, there was a lot of stepping up, particularly from the government. in the past 2 years, I've been with two organizations. IMA is my recent assignment, where I was also with a large e-commerce company at that time. We saw, so I've seen both sides of the debate. We saw the government stepping up almost on a daily basis, resolving completely ground issues and streamlining supply chains. And this was a time when they would ask and say, what is it that we can do? And similarly, I think the industry pitched in as well. We also saw partnerships and an emphasis on technology. So hybrid, making the virtual feel like touch and feel. That was important. That was important because that kind of helped people get back to business. So the business was being done in a very good manner. There were a lot of online communication. Work from home completely took a different meaning. Hours changed. There was a lot of, on a personal side, there was a lot of balance between home and work that one had to kind of achieve. But I thought we saw a lot of partnerships between industry associations, between industry, between the buyers and the sellers. That was there. Also the hybrid mode or the virtual mode, or the mix of the hybrid, virtual and physical is here to stay. So you saw that in the window between the second and now what potentially we're staring at the third wave, we suddenly saw everybody coming back to physical. Right? There's this whole rush to kind of get into that, because essentially we're humans, we love to interact. Exhibitions industry specifically is all about interaction, human interactions, talking to each other, meeting each other, doing business this way. So I think the hybrid mode will come to stay, and this is also a time where we saw a lot of investments, as I think Bhupinderji pointed out, into large infrastructure. IEML is one example, BIEC is one example. You guys have basically upped the game by spending this time in augmenting the infrastructure, especially for the Indian exhibitions industry, to come to that fore. So I think that's what we kind of see, and these are the trends that we'll probably be seeing, and as potentially we'll come to another, a third, or maybe a fourth wave or whatever. But I think technology will play an important role, doing business or integrating buyer-seller into whatever we do. Venues which will be COVID safe, I think those will garner premium. Those are the three things that I can see. Over to you. Thank you.
All excellent points. The partnerships going hybrid, I think, very important in this phase as well. So, Indu, I think for you, it's been a very pertinent 18 months. I think you had a very important role in this last 18 months. Globally, this industry went through a lot. So, how have been your takeaways?
Thank you, Vish. I think a lot of answers have come already. If you are a venue and you have a lot of fixed assets, it can be very, very stressful. Okay, right? There is no shortcut to it. Okay, talking about our case, I think we've been a traditional association, so frugal, as well as we kept some resources for rainy days. So we never thought rainy days going to come from 2020 onwards, but then we could use that to manage. Of course, we also utilized borrowings and things like that. So all this were ways and means how we managed it. But you need to keep the flock together. You need to keep giving confidence. I think that's very, very important. All that we did, and also the role that we played at the international level. Again, the international level in every market is very important. Every associate needs to do this, and we are, as part of the movement, fortunate to play that role as well. And even the global association has really taken the work to the government to the next level. Okay, so these are all some of the important things. Coming specifically to India, I think some of the panelists like Vinny and Charles mentioned about association activity. We also did a lot of work for the mission tool part of it. Amazingly, I think to simply put, we lost that 18 months. We lost 1.5 years. Let it go. I see a decade of opportunity in front of us. I think that's the way to look at it. We have a wonderful opportunity. The backdrop is 7% CAGR. I mentioned in the opening session. It's not a simple thing. It's a great opportunity for almost all organizations who work with specific sectors. you look at any sector, whether it's agro food or defense or electronics, toys, or look at any one of this, or services, IT, hardware, every sector will grow. Okay, so when these sectors grow, Anand, they talk about innovation. You will have new products coming in, innovations coming in. Those cycles need to, keep, climbing up. And exhibitions got a role to play in providing that ecosystem, to play as an enabler. You can't forget the last 18 months. Look at the future. I don't think you will look for better times. This is the best time you're ever going to have. So I think if we can use it properly, I've mentioned in one of the previous ones, India can, the exhibitions can become fourfold. It could be even higher. I think that on a positive note, we have great opportunity for this.
Love your approval.
Before you go ahead, I just must say something that we must put our hands together for Anbu and let me finish first. And IMTMA, because this facility was a COVID hospital or a makeshift hospital. So I guess that's another big social contribution of the exhibition business that we can make, is that in times of troubles, these huge halls can work as shelters. So I guess a big hand for Ambu and the entire IMTMA management and the team here. Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you.
So it's not just BIS, a lot of other exhibitions. I think it's really means a lot how we contributed to the pandemic in terms of efforts from the government side also. So thanks, and very optimistic view of the future. That's really nice. So coming to Vivek, I think Vivek, you have a very important role. This Wiki also a very important association. So from your perspective, how have been this last 18 months? Any key takeaways for you?
So I think most of what's been said is actually quite relevant to all of us in some way or the other. But our industry actually was in a very unique position. Right in the midst of the pandemic, the government actually announced us as a champion sector. Okay, so we were very busy as associations in actually interacting with the government. The government actually moved at a speed and pace at which I have never seen any government do. There was a determination and there was a focus that I have never seen for any sector. And we've been asking for this for many years, but it came to us as a big surprise. At the same time, they brought in certain regulations. So when you look at what we've been through in the pandemic, and I have to say, if I look at my colleague here, Mr. Kumar, with EPCH, they actually put on a toy show along with, the Handicraft Council and some of the Textile Ministry. All the ministries came together and actually put together a India toy show which was free for all participants. Not only free, they actually help catalog your products, digitize them, send photographers across the country to small towns, to traditional toy makers, whether it's Channapatna, anywhere. And the way this was all organized really told us, pandemic or not, if you want to move forward, you can move forward. And that was a big message that the government gave us, has boosted this whole industry, and we are only going from strength to strength. So we should look at what can be done in times like the pandemic, instead of all of us sitting back and saying there's nothing I can do and, let's bide time. So as we said earlier, when we talk about a decade of growth, I think those 18 months are probably going to give us many decades of growth in our sector.
So to start on a positive note, actually, it was good to go through how the view was on 18 to 24 months. So now the pertinent questions start, and my first question goes to Rupinder-ji. Ma'am, for you, I think as we as an industry, we have been projecting MySIL in a particular way to the global industry. But the industry globally looks at us in a different manner, really. So there is a gap between how this MySIL industry is projected. So how can we work further on positioning strategy for our MySIL industry per se in the global markets?
So, I thought I had the question paper had started with the opening, but yes. And thanks, Vivek, for highlighting some of the things that happened in this period. And I think we'll have to keep working on that. So it's like the foundations are already being built. In fact, pre-COVID times, India was inching up, doing better. The number of large meetings in 2017, I was looking at some data which has been done by one of you, that 175 meetings were happening. India was getting better in terms of so many capacities that are required along the supply chain for my segment. And yes, during the pandemic, fortunately, some of the things did not lose focus, even though a large focus from the government, of course, did require taking care first primarily of the health and support systems. But fortunately, the harmonized list, which was one of the requirements for the industry, did happen in 2021. And we carried on working. Yes, also the champion sector recognizes MICE as a significant segment. So the need to support industry through tax breaks, a 2-night tax break, which can of course be seen in maybe more close terms in times to come, as we all recognize that this segment has a huge multiplier effect for the economy. Nothing stops us from expanding the incentives to our industry for the sector. And what else could be done in terms of maybe discounts on advertising space? I was looking at what some of the other countries are doing. So discounts on advertising space, could we have visa facilities which are dedicated, maybe even doing counters at the airports, so that as and when the hybrid, as indicated by my co-panelists, that perhaps hybrid is here for a while to stay. But what could we do at the facilitation centers? And I think these are things that will require a lot more work. So I think what we need to do in times to come is to build on the synergy that has been happening in the last 3-4 years and catapult India into another zone and move away from being that 1% only to a far more ambitious target. Because clearly the potential is huge. And you look in an industry which is benchmarked at about 1,000 billion, 1,200 billion. There are different data, but whether we call it an 8 billion industry or whether I call it a 1,200 billion industry, anyways, it's huge, it's massive. And we do need to leverage our country's ability to take on, and given the kind of facilities that are happening in cities like where you are right now, Bangalore, exhibiting almost a 14.5% CAGR in pre-COVID times. So clearly there are reasons to be happy, but then also clearly the need to build better partnerships, which is a learning out of COVID times, I think, and that on how much partnerships can really create positive results is something we hope is going to stay. Resilience, yes, also is going to be required in a different way, because there may be challenges of other kinds. So how to be resilient in face of those. A very good word that came to mind when one of the co-panelists was talking about the Indian story, the jugaad, on how we kind of bring out our best in given adversity. I think these are things that have come in dialogue far more in COVID times. And we probably need to go back to all these adjectives and adverbs and adopt them as part of our working times and look at disruption, which in some ways is disruption, but in some ways it will also make us all think back and say, okay, I know I have a lot more ability than this. Can I, over a period of time, over a period of next 2-3 years at least, make up for the losses that the industry has suffered in these last 2 years, and not only just make up for the losses, but actually to build up on that. And I think from the government side of interventions, the focus on large infra is not going to shift. That's there, and it's going to continue to remain, and we must leverage on that. We definitely need to do a few more specific things for MICE, including going for the bidding for international conferences, making sure that the communication strategy that we take on as a government and partner with all of you, with the large DMCs across the world, with state governments from within India, the central government, also a huge client itself becomes, and also clients across the world, on how really to get some very, very, event to India, which will bring the focus of the world, is where I think we need to partner a little more to make sure that India gets noticed, as I said earlier, for the right reasons. And tax deductions, flexible travel windows, visa facilitations, airport facilitations, discounts, and more incentives is where I see that government can play a huge role in times to come.
I think that's good to hear how government will be supporting this MICE as we are looking to double our stake in this rural market. Thanks for those words. My next question is to Anbu. I think for the last few years there has been a certain shift of focus to South Asia, especially for exhibitions per se as an ecosystem. How can India leverage this shift to enhance this position on the global map?
It's a very important question, Yogesh. Ms. Rar has touched about some of the aspects. If you look at what's happening today, I mentioned about economy going up, the momentum picking up. It will go beyond 10 years as well. But also, if you look at government, lots of things have happened during this COVID period. You know, Make in India, Atmanirbhar are some of the examples. But also the PLI in almost 13, 14 sectors is going to really elevate, the investment in these sectors, and also the production, job creation, so many things. And you look at the opportunity that can come in the real estate as well. Currently, it may be a little bit down. And low-cost housing, can be a great opportunity. So we have quite a few things which are hidden are now coming to the, forefront. And plus a whole lot of other, if you look at defense manufacturing, you would have seen that in the newspapers today, billions of dollars getting into it. So you'll have a lot of new products, innovations, and those things, coming to the forefront. You could literally, trace it to almost, all key sectors. One defense, auto component has been happening already, and food processing will happen, and general engineering will flourish. That's the backdrop. Now, how do we position India? I think we could also position India as a great sourcing nation. Okay, and exhibitions will have a major role to play in addition to tourism. And tourism will obviously, go leaps and bounds. As a sourcing nation, India can actually, cater to several key, sectors through several, products which are cost-effective and which can be innovative, and we can reduce the, cost in several other markets as well. By being, this is the power of the new India, and the younger people, the new setups can really bring in, this. So I see a huge opportunity coming, which has, never been the case in the past. And in addition, the Make in India, the brand position, if you combine all this, okay, and the innovative ability of Indians, we anyway work for, major, multinational companies. You will see them start working for Indian companies as well. So all combined, I think we could certainly position India in a completely different way.
That's again very positive for us as an exhibition sector when we are projecting it to the global map. So very good. So Vinny, my next question is to you. Indian mobility is now going from a revival mode. In fact, we saw there was a bit of a downturn before the pandemic, but I think it's now reviving to regrowth. As you in fact told us how this industry is growing already, which you are going to announce tomorrow. How did this retrospective time during the pandemic help you formulate this?
I think we didn't do anything. It's the great people of this nation and the way they consume things makes the entire industry thrive, survive, revive, whatever you may say so. So again, but as I said, we're not out of the woods as yet. We still have issues on the supply chain. I'm sure people in Bangalore and everywhere are reading quite a bit. There's an issue on the chips front. Chips are not available. Raw material prices across industries have gone up very, very significantly. Steel has gone up 60% in last 1 year. So has copper, aluminum, rubber, plastics, everything. In fact, input raw material for vehicles in last 1 year on an average has gone up by 30%. And the third issue is that on the logistics front, the costs on logistics and international trade has gone up, and also there are issues on the container front. Yesterday I learned it's eased about a little bit, but it's still there. So in this milieu, what you find is that when we close this year, we could have done 500,000 cars more than what we're going to be doing. And that's a loss to the industry to the tune to the car industry alone, the loss will be to the tune of 1800 to 2000 crore, and that results in a loss to the component industry to the tune of 1000 odd crores. So I can say is that we have, in some sense, come back, but we are not where we could have been. Okay, so the challenges will continue, and we will continue to fight. That's how we are. And as I said earlier on, we'll take one step at a time, not complaining at all. Things could have been better, but could have been worse also. So one should look at, the good things in life and count your blessings. Yeah.
I look at it positively that it's coming out and we are actually growing from where we were. I think before the pandemic, the automotive industry was in a very different situation. So that's a good sign anyways. So good. Charu, my question is to you now. I think we know what has happened in the last 18-24 months, but what as an association, as a body, you are looking to showcase to the world, and how do you think is your outlook on the Indian exhibition scenario for the coming years?
Okay.
And how will exhibitions play a key role there?
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Yogesh. So, after a 2-year degrowth of almost 15%, I think what the industry has done, our electrical industry has done, is that it's focused on new technology and new offerings, especially some things like smart meters, smart grids, with that kind of potential. So the industry is very, very keen to bring out its technology and products and showcase them to the world. A lot of the companies are already riding the export wave, so the focus is on exports. The Indian electrical industry is focusing on innovation and technology development within itself, and are looking to match international standards with their products. They're also looking at, we are traditionally, the demand for electrical industries, of derived demand comes largely from generation and transmission. That sector has not been doing too well, and the demand is sluggish there. Though with the new distribution reforms, we hope that the demand will grow. But the industry on its own is now looking at other alternate business opportunities. Anbu mentioned defense expenditure. That's a huge thing for us in the electrical industry. EVs or smart housing. So these are railways. So these are the opportunities that the industry is now looking at fully. As far as IEEMA is concerned, I think what we will do is we will look at carving out these very specialized opportunities in a very focused manner through roadshows and exhibitions. Hopefully, the days of physical exhibitions will be back, because that's the spirit of exhibitions. But if not, then I think we are really looking at a combination of a virtual hybrid kind of a mode, where I think venues and exhibition organizers will have to bring in, as I said earlier as well, a lot of technology to make the virtual, touch and feel. So if I was to just take the example of what Vivek mentioned, the National Toy Fair, I was involved in my previous assignment from a different point of view. The whole thing of how to photograph the product, how to display the product, the whole technology around that display, and integrating business meetings into those modules will be key and going forward. And any exhibition venues that kind of invest in that and invest in COVID protocols, as I said, will garner them. What we need in India is, I think I share the optimism with Anju and Vinny, that and Rupendraji mentioned that it's time to bid for international shows and MICE conferences for India. But what India needs is a proper, a well-built infrastructure, self-contained infrastructure for exhibition, right? Which would Gujarat did make an attempt initially, but I think that's the way to go. So I think with IEML and BIEC there, who are already taking the lead, made Pragati Maidan reinvent itself after so many years. So I think we are moving in the right direction. But what we are also looking at is an environment to bring in more investment in the exhibition infrastructure sector. And I think IEA has a very crucial role to play there. You've already, asking for exhibitions to be included in the services sector or the MICE to be in the champion services sector. That's the golden goal. But more, this thing I think Rupendraji touched in her own way on some of these policy measures. But what we're looking at is an environment to bring in more investment into augmented exhibition infrastructure and come into some kind of a self-contained. Briefly that. Thank you.
So, who's your? It's okay. So I think good to know your perspective as it is. IMA is anyways doing, as you said, it's the largest electrical exhibition in the world. It's a showcase to the world, and I'm sure. I think pointers you mentioned will definitely look at exhibitions, make it a best space for this.
Electrama has now become the standalone largest electrical exhibition in the world, and we are bringing in more offerings around that as well. So I know I have two friends sitting there already, BIAC and IML. So we are going to be using both the infrastructures fairly well for that, and inshallah we'll do many more offerings through the year.
So Anbu's letting me talking about some very good infrastructure point, how cities used to manage that. I think relevant to what Charu also mentioned.
Yeah, Charu talked about the infra. I think also this is connected to my the answer to my previous question. People think that organizers do the organizing part of the show, and venues are hosting it. They're doing the job anyway. If you really look at deeply, it is the cities which host the show. Globally, when you look at whether it is from Los Angeles to Chicago or to Dubai, or the traditional one London or Paris, or you go to Tokyo or Kuala Lumpur, Las Vegas. Okay, why do people keep going back? Okay, when the exhibitors and visitors come, they're made to feel that they are most welcome. Okay, whether it is safety or accommodation, local transport, they stay, people make it memorable. I think every city in India should compete for this. Sitting in Bangalore, I believe Bangalore has got all the elements to make it the greatest house in the world. But we need to just put it together. Delhi anyway will have an edge as national capital. Bombay, they don't have to do anything. People will go there anyway. But then every city needs to really compete. I think if you can, in IAIA, put a template together and we can work with each one of the state government, we can create 10 mega host cities in India for the show. Then most of the big brands, big shows, they will grow in India. We can also make them come to India.
Very good point. Cities.
Absolutely the point I was making. Absolutely.
So my next question is to, in fact, it's a very similar question to both Rakeshji and Vivekji, because you represent sectors where artisans or SMEs which are represented over here. So it's maybe Rakeshji can answer this first, then Vivek. In recent years, we have seen emergence of online retail, proliferation of e-commerce portals, which are actually channels which are actually diverting a lot of sales, be it in handicrafts or toys or as an industry, which is in fact convenient to consumers. So in this world, new world, how do you see an in-person exhibition plays an important role in the overall ecosystem?
Thank you, Vikesh. As a matter of fact, during this pandemic time, we all started organizing virtual show, and initially we were very comfortable. We were able to reach to our people, particularly the exhibitors and the buyers. But finally, we have concluded that physical show is the only way, at least in my trade, to reach to the customer. Right. As far as the online platforms are concerned, and they are reaching to consumer, so that is rather a good sign for me. The reason is, the online platform are reaching to the consumers, and in our show, our buyers are not the buyers, they are basically sellers. So these sellers are now becoming resellers on these all online platforms. So in fact, in October, recently, because we were one of the first one who started such large physical show at the Expo Mart, Before that, we had IHE along with Biofact with Sonia ji also in the October show. So that time we realized that a new breed of the visitors came over there. Suddenly we realized 200% together came as a group. They were the Amazon resellers. Then we realized there was also another group coming from the Europe. They said they all registered as a resellers on the different platforms, online platforms. So big visitor footfall is now coming over there. And particularly in case of our product category, look, feel, trends, the product and the latest design, IP rights, all these issues all are very important. And I personally am very comfortable with that. I have no problem with that. Rather, I think physical fairs are going to exist and it's going to be much bigger than the earlier. One more thing that we have observed in your show also, we saw that. I think some of the exhibitors were afraid to participate. But the visitor footfall was amazing. That was more than expected. It has gone in some cases even 2 times, 3 times more than that we expected it. So that way the physical fair are definitely going to exist, and these online platforms are going to rather assist us and we are going to complement ourselves. Thank you.
Excellent point. It's complementing and they come as a new buyer profile to our show. So that's a very important point. Really. It's not just looking at them as competition, but they are buyer. Do you see that similarly, Vivek? Is there anything more than, I'm sure there will be.
Well, actually, Rakeshji, whatever he said just now is completely, what we agree with. But just to give you a few pointers where the toy industry is concerned. Yes, e-commerce has allowed us to reach parts of India which are very difficult in terms of distributing goods. Finding, if you really look at the northeast, you look at those sectors, the logistic costs, considering a lot of manufacturing is based either on the west, and north, much less in the south, but growing now in Bangalore. So when we look at the reach of e-commerce, especially during pandemic, really helped us as an industry. But the growth of e-commerce sales for toys was only around 25% on an average. But we lost 100% of sales in physical stores. But as was mentioned earlier, when you look at product, the buyer at the e-commerce company, how does he know what to put up there? How does he know what to actually position and how to position it? Toys is something which, as everyone knows, but maybe you've not really looked at the quantum of the kind of designs and the varieties we have. We last estimated that in India alone we have over 400,000 types of toys being sold. Now, you cannot showcase those toys in a virtual exhibition. Each toy, if I'm a buyer, I have my own understanding of a product. We have to understand regional restrictions in terms of language, in terms of actual salesmen that come to the fairs. In our fairs, we actually have retail stores where they'll shut early in the evening and bring all their counter salesmen. Because they're the ones who are actually selling, to the consumer and telling the consumer, what do you buy for a young child, what's new, what's not new. So I think in our industry, virtual fairs were fine, but I don't think they're here to stay. For us, that physical exhibition is very important. It's very important in building relationships between manufacturers, between the whole distribution system, the whole value chain. And I don't think that can be taken away in any manner. So physical exhibition, definitely one thing that we've learned we can't do without.
The sweet words for an entire audience sitting here, I'm sure, because exhibitions are what we do. So, and good to hear the words from media associations, really. My question to Anandi now. Anandi, front of her office in India has been since 2008, and you have been engaging with not only the industry but government and academia also. You make innovative technologies accessible to Indian clients through your office. And do you think there's an increased global interest to make India as a base of exhibition destinations so as to tap the Indian customers? What's been your thought? I also want to merge this with another role, because looking at the want of time, I just thought I had a very interesting question, because you also represent GI and SCP, and which actually looks at emerging sectors and investments and getting investments into that. So what are those emerging sectors? Well, definitely our industry would love to know, because those will be the emerging sectors for exhibitions per se in the future.
Yeah, so two things up front. One, I come from the exhibition industry long, long ago. I remember many moons ago, we have friends here, Charu, me, Anbu, and Vinny. We spent hours on the exhibition grounds in Delhi, walking the nights and
Absolutely.
setting up the stands. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we've done everything.
This was one person who somebody said, who doesn't know Anandi Iyer?
So we've picked up waste paper baskets from the trade fair grounds. So we've done all of it and we know how it works. What I would love to see is the glory of those exhibitions coming back. At one point in time, the IETF used to have 10 heads of state visiting. And there would be the whole city of Delhi would come alive with that. I think this is the opportunity for us to put the reboot button, because like the cricket is something we all understand. When we move from the 5-day game to IPL, that's what we need to do. There has to be a paradigm shift in the way exhibitions are organized and has to connect with the people. So it has to become a celebration. One is that. And I totally take what Anbu said about cities hosting, Even today, even though people come to Bangalore for this fantastic infrastructure here, if we only put in place those small little irritants like the transportation, like having a ticket that takes care of your entire, presence here, those things add so much value because it's like ease of participating. Now, coming to the trends and technologies for trade fairs, Europe, we can really see a few things that really work for Europe. For example, if you take the Bauma, which is the construction fair in Munich, Fraunhofer is the technology partner to that, and what we bring in is the complete analysis of the trends for the next 5 years. So the conference becomes something like a technology mindset for the entire exhibition, and then it is linked to what products are displayed. So there is a very fine balance between what's going to come in the next 5 years and what you're showcasing today. So it's here and now plus tomorrow. The IMTMA we've worked with them for the last nearly 10 years, where we support them in the conference program. And I think I would like to believe that it has been a very beautiful experience because we've been able to showcase what's coming up. So the exhibitors also gain. They're not just to sell, but they're also here to learn. If you're talking about the sectors that could be very interesting in the coming years, I think artificial intelligence is going to be a very big topic. And this covers all sectors. It's a cross-cutting topic. So whether you're talking health, whether you're talking energy, whether you're talking manufacturing, artificial intelligence is a cross-cutting topic. So we should definitely in every exhibition have a separate session around that. And I would also request to have a special session on SME. Very often the SME gets hidden between the large players because they may not have a lot to exhibit, but they have a lot to talk about. And if we can get the focus a little bit on SMEs, because they are the engines of innovation in any country, particularly in India, I've seen some of the best SMEs come up to us and say, look, we want to invest in technology, we want to invest in innovation. They are nimbler, faster than the larger ones. So let's please also give them a lot of focus in the coming years, because they will be the drivers of innovation in India. Thank you.
Excellent. I think AI is the future. That's what you talked about. And of course, SMEs, I think who better knows than the exhibition industry, because I think most of us, 80% of our exhibitors are probably SMEs. So I think that's where it is. So thanks Anandi. I have lots more questions, but looking at time, I still have one question I'll definitely want to ask Rupinder ma'am, since you are here. I think because you represent the government, and I think from your side per se, what are your recommendations for the exhibitions and conference industry to meet the futuristic global demand, and how we can step up? Any particular expectations from government side for us?
In fact, I would say that there's been a lot of learning for me and therefore from me to the entire ministry from all of you. There's fantastic thoughts that have emerged, and Anandi mentioned about technology supporting the MSMEs. I think therefore when she's talking of the paradigm shift, and also hearing our friend from the toys industry, I think finding that right balance post-COVID as to how much is going to go virtual and how much is going to be physical, and the need for physical certainly cannot be lost for certain trades even more than the others. But I think more from the whole human experience perspective, and we do hope that virtual, though I am with you virtually right now, and that's the power of technology, but at the same time, it would have been so very different to be actually there and having a cup of coffee together at the end of it. I think the messaging that we must not lose, that falling back on virtual is a stopgap and should not be adopted as a method of connecting with each other as we go forward, and not just from the perspective of the businesses, but from the whole social perspective of mankind. Because Anbu has talked about cities, so has Arandi mentioned that. Absolutely. I mean, I remember as a young kid in Delhi when we used to have the trade fair, the whole city used to come alive, and it was like something that had to be gone. There were business hours, there were the normal hours, and therefore pitching a city and making the cities compete amongst themselves to become destinations for large events, MICE, as a whole segment is a fantastic decision, Anbu. And I think that's a learning for us, that we would like to take up the process in a more organized way as we talk about promotion strategies on how to pitch the strengths of each city towards organizing MICE events. Maybe a niche segment can be recognized in promoting cities and creating the wealth around a city as an asset for the MICE segment. So that's one clear learning. The other, I think, thing that we probably look forward to working with all of you would be the integration of technology in improving the supply chain. The third thing where I can see a lot of input where we can work with you is the human resource upgradation, the skilling part of it, so that we can really do very high-end conventions and events in our country. And also, of course, I want to say again that the focus on large infra, the civil aviation ministers announced 21 more greenfield airport projects. We as a ministry do give a lot of viability gap funding to sectors that need to have air connectivity, and we'll be more than happy if some of you want to come forth and start suggesting some cities that do not have adequate connectivity. We are also entering into a memorandum of understanding with Alliance Air, because you can actually then have dedicated flights and things like that. So I think need to work together, need for partnerships, and need to just look at the future in a very positive way.
Excellent. I think that's a great optimistic note. We can end the panel on. The questions can be never-ending, which we have just a very high-profile panel. I have so many more questions, but I'm sure I want to give some time to the audience to ask questions to the panelists over here. So please, I think this forum is open now. Any questions you have to this eminent panelists, please raise your hand and just say your name and ask a question.
Yogesh, I'd just like to add one thing.
Yes.
We were having a little side chat.
Sure.
Sanbu actually came up with a very good point. If you really look at whatever we've discussed, it goes across sectors. I think as an exhibition industry, I don't think we always look at sector-specific exhibitions. Have you ever looked at, when we talk about a destination, and even in our space, I mean, the child could be the focus, right? Whether it's education, whether it's the physical toys, whether it's how you dress, every part of their lifestyle. Have we as an exhibition industry really looked at multi-sectoral exhibitions? You know, that could be the future. If you have infrastructure like we have here in Bangalore, I think it lends itself to actually looking beyond just one industry, but maybe looking at a group of industries that can interact and have similar buying teams or, visitors that are coming in. I think that would be the future in India, really.
This level, I think probably government does that. Like we have this Vibrant Gujarat, which happened, which is a multi-sectoral event. So I think that's what, but not as, probably I haven't heard any private organizer doing that really. Large expos, yeah.
As large expos, okay, so the way Dubai is hosting, so India could really come out with something really bigger, which can attract people from all across the world, both for business sourcing or, engineering, manufacturing, and also for tourism on the other side. Could be a combined one, can give terrific results in years to come.
Good point to think on, and how we can different plan for this too, so that showcase it to the world. Great, good note to end on. Please, any questions to this panel?
I just want to interrupt here with one last thing that it's, I do definitely want to say one last word here is that I want to congratulate the Indian Exhibition Industry Association for taking up this. And I said this right in the beginning that I think this is just the time, despite Omicron trying to resurface, but I think we need to, and we are going to continue. And why I wanted to interrupt and say this is, as a government, we're going to keep the messaging that India is ready for events in times to come because of a very strong vaccination campaign. In fact, I was checking with UK yesterday, and one reason perhaps that they have, even though they had the supplies, but there's been a lot of skepticism about getting vaccinated, which is not the case in India. The very brisk and aggressive vaccination campaign, of course, finger, toes, body cross, that the numbers don't increase. But I think we must not lose the communication. And so therefore, an event of this kind that we are having today, thanks to the IEIA and thanks, of course, to Ms. Brasher, we just met and she said, would you like to join in? And I don't want to lose the opportunity of talking to all of you. Let's keep having more of these dialogues, is what I want to say. So that when we really are ready to welcome people back, we got everything actually going good for us.
Great points. I think the vaccination, I think India is a country, they say now, and is probably one of the best managed way in the way we have managed the overall pandemic. The US had the second wave, but I think the way we have come out of it has been pretty commendable. I say. Great points. You had a question, sir?
Hi, my name is Mukul Sinha. I'm not from the exhibition industry, but I must say that this panel discussion has been extremely enlightening and I've learned so much. And what a great difference the industry makes to the entire economy. My question is related to, I heard a lot about the fact that everybody wants the shows to come back and physical shows to come back, which is of course amazing, and this is how it should happen. I just have a little different viewpoint on this, just for you guys to consider. Otherwise, we can throw it out of the window. Which is basically like today, work from home and was happening during pandemic. And I think all over the world now, the hybrid model is going to continue. No company can ever say now that we are going to be 100% back or we are going to be 100% work from home, right? So what my suggestion was that maybe exhibition industry can identify and start looking at these are the products, these are the industries, and these are the shows which must be physical, because there is no way that we can do about it without them. But at the same time, we don't know how many more Omicrons are going to come. We should also start identifying that these are the shows, or maybe start looking for those products and looking for those industries which can also be done profitably and very well, serving the purpose, but virtually. And that was just one point that came to my mind, and I thought I'd share it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sinha. I think the world has been grappling with that issue for the past 20 months. Okay, so just to put this in perspective, those products or sectors where just by coming on the digital platform, the B2B aspect can go on without any hassle, as well as the innovation cycle and then technology development, all those things can be addressed without any down. It may flourish. But all other sectors need to come back to face-to-face. The way that you and I are meeting here, I don't think is going to be the same if you meet on digital. Okay? It's not going to be more than 5% in my view. Balance 99, you can say they're almost close to 100%. We'll have to come to face-to-face. There are only few areas where you can actually just stay with digital alone. Okay, for not only business, but particularly for, you can do the business today. But then if you want to really take the customer feedback, really want to test a product in the market, really want to leverage it for new improvements, you need to come to face-to-face, either way. Either in the exhibition or otherwise. What is exhibition? It's an ecosystem. Okay, you have an idea, you give shape to it, probably bring in design, technology, new material, all this together, and then bring it to the platform. And you're not testing with one person, you're testing with hundreds of people. And that gives you real feedback. And those people are not going to mince words. They will tell you on your face if it is not working. That's what you are looking for. You cannot get that on digital. At least last 20 months, we couldn't get that on digital. Digital tech, as of today, has got limitation as well. We also tried. We put a couple of companies, tried to really bring the way that in our IMTech show, the machines are showcased, can you do that in digital? As of today, it's not possible. Maybe in future. But still, as Vivek said, if you want to really showcase some 100 lakh products or 200,000 products at the same time, and in the digital platform, will you be able to differentiate? It will be very difficult. So there are limitations. Digital will definitely add value in the process, in doing the shows, in actually making post-exhibition to continue with the B2B, and a whole lot of value additions coming through digital. All those will remain. But the exhibitions per se need to come back to face-to-face if we really need to be adding great value. That's my viewpoint.
Good afternoon. My name is Raghav Khosla. I am the editor of Exhibition
Who doesn't know you,
Showcase.
man? We don't have to introduce you.
Well, thank you for such an enlightening session today. My question is to Madam Rupinder Brar. Well, ma'am, we have seen that exhibition industry is the propeller of economic growth, and exhibitions are a vital element in the MICE ecosystem. We have seen how in countries like Germany, China, USA, the government has actually come forward and supported the exhibition industry during these hard-hit times. Well, our industry has been hit very severely. Well, ma'am, we have also seen that the government of India under Ministry of Tourism has formed various subcommittees during this pandemic for addressing the revival of the industry. Do you have any plans for the revival of Indian exhibition industry? How you can handhold along with IEIA going forward, and something can be done to take our industry, to support our industry and guide our industry?
Thanks, Mr. Khosla, for a lot of thoughts there. And yes, I think, as I said earlier, quite a lot of focus coming on the industry, on the potential of the industry through the champion sector, through supporting infrastructure where we actually identify and do send funds also to the related ministries, whether it's the rail, whether it's civil aviation. We're working very closely with roads industry also, very closely in terms of the product and elevations, and also in terms of the process elevations. How to make sure the visas and stuff like that actually become easy, because ultimately any segment of travel tourism is all about product, process and promotion. And that's the 3 Ps where we hope to focus and work more closely with all of you on. I mentioned about the GST, I mentioned about the need to carry out promotion, and I hope that events like these, not virtually, but with all of you coming to the ministry and actually collaborating and working with us, are going to show us even more ways of how we can assist the industry in times to come to bounce back, and in fact, not only just bounce back, but actually be right up there, getting its rightful share in the global business segment.
This answers your question, Raghav. Thanks, ma'am. Yes, we have one question. And yes, Sanjeev. This will be the last question. I think if any more questions, definitely the panelists will be available over here or lunch. You can definitely have this one-on-one conversations with them.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sanjeev Rao from Informa. I have a question to the August panelists here. In this panel, we see the association, the venue, the organizer. But 2 people who are missing out of this is our investor who participates in our show and who attends our show. As we said, the purse strings are tighter for everybody, more so for our exhibitors as well. We all compete in the field, creating our own shows in different venues. Are we going through a collaborative effort so that we are making it easier for the person who is investing into the show as well?
So technically, we don't have we have a representative from you'll be a visitor to the show, right, per se. So that's where it is. Of course, exhibitors somehow we don't have, but I think exhibitors have been short for us anyways, right, for this year's exhibitions. So we didn't manage one in the panel also. Yes, associations are investors, but of course, I think
I think all of us are also visitors to the show. Just because I'm exhibiting doesn't mean I'm not a visitor. Visitors to the show. But I see your point, and I think one of the things that from a European company perspective or an organization perspective, I would like for the visitors is to see planning happening well in advance. Very often, I get inquiries or requests saying that the exhibition is in a month's time or 2 weeks' time, sometimes even 3 days later. And participating in any possible way at such short notice, particularly when you're looking at international delegates or technology coming in, is extremely difficult. So I think that part really needs to be taken care by the organizers. IMTMA and other organizers have set a very high benchmark, Auto Expo, where they declare the exhibition a year in advance. Now that gives you great opportunity to get in people from everywhere, right? And talking again about how to involve them, this hybrid model is excellent for marketing of the exhibition because you have today the digital reach to go anywhere. So we can use this very effectively for tools which bring in the visitor, which bring in the investor. And investors come when technology is very high. Nobody wants to invest in technology that's gone. You're looking at the future, and that's where you invest. So one of the things that we can really bring in is the conference element, and I would really pitch to make conferences to be an integral part of the exhibition, because that's where the investor comes, because he wants to know where is the future, where are we going, and how can he jump on the bandwagon much before than the others have done. So if we can look at these two elements, at least we would have covered the exhibitor and the investor.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Vivekanand Vivek from ITPO. There's no question as such. I just want to, I'm in agreement with what Rakesh Saab and Anbu Saab and all of you have said, that exhibition in physical way is the only way. I'll tell you, today people say that, tourism industry is going to grow. Tell me how many of us with our families and friends would like to visit a tourist place or Kerala or Amritsar or Bodh Gaya or Switzerland virtually? We wouldn't like to. We want to physically visit. Same way, exhibition will have its role. It, of course, as you say, 95 to 99% will be the exhibitions. A pickle adds value to your dinner, but pickle cannot be your dinner. Similarly, physical exhibitions will be our meal, and pickle will add value to it. And that's going to remain. This is my view. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I would like to just add, because I would rather support ITP otherwise also. I just tell you, in my EPCH fair, which is the largest show on handicraft and gift, IIGF Delhi fair. So, we had a meeting with the exhibitor before show to organize and decide. Then we talk about the hybrid show. He said, okay, hybrid show. So, exhibitors suddenly woke up, they said, देखिए साहब, कुंभ में जाके ही नहाया जाता है. अगर किसी को गंगा में डुबकी लगा के पाप धोने हैं तो वहीं धोएंगे. So if you have to participate in a show, that means in a physical show. And then hybrid means कि आप घर में गंगा जल लेके अपने छिड़क लीजिए, तो आपका शो वहीं कर लीजिए. इसका मतलब हाइब्रिड की बात मत कीजिए. Whosoever, you have to give them a good bandwidth. Any exhibitor would like to show product to the buyer who has not come, the visitor who has not come. You can show there. That is happening in our show also. In my October show, we had given good bandwidth to everybody. The show was happening, the physical show was happening, and then there was the request from the exhibitor that my buyer in US, he could not come, but now I wish to open the show till 10 o'clock. And we allowed them. Lights were open, the services were available, and he had his own facility, and then he attended his buyer, he showed him product from there, and then it worked out. But the moment the show organizer will start giving the hybrid option, the visitor will step out, he will say, okay, let me be at home and let me enjoy the show from there. So for all of you, for all of us as an exhibitor organizer, let it be the work. A physical show means just a physical show, not the hybrid show. I don't support that at least. Thank you.
So on that note, I think we must say Kumbh Melas are going to be the order of the day in 2022, but of course maintain social distancing and wear masks. That's going to be very important to do those massive exhibitions with large footfalls that we'll love to see coming back stronger in 2022. Thank you to all my co-panelists. Thank you ma'am who joined us. Charuji, thank you for joining us virtually, and Great, wonderful to have this session. Thank you again.
This Rakesh Kumar ji. Mr. Jangiani. Miss Anandi Iyer. Mr. Anbu. And to Yogesh for a fantastic moderation job done. Great work. A group photograph with Madam President, I think, would look very nice. Yeah. So we'll wait for lunch and we will be here at 2:25 for the next session. It's real food. And thanks to the excellent hospitality of BIC, you are going to have real yummy food.